We talk a lot about this. We talk about the death of everything. And that's what you're seeing now across the country, the death of everything. Every day you wake up, there's some new thing shot out of the sky. Why? Why do they keep shooting things out of the sky? Well, it's not for any form of patriotism. You saw that when they allowed one Chinese spy balloon to traverse the entire United States of America before shooting it down. The administration got embarrassed that they got caught not shooting it down, and so now they're just blasting away at everything, real or imagined. Who knows what they're actually shooting down? Now they're just blasting everything out of the sky. But what does this have to do with a rotting nation, the death of everything? Well, here's what it has to do. You see, when you focus on the wrong thing as a qualification to do anything, you will eventually destroy that profession, that institution. And here, let me use a really stupid example, but I'm stupid, so I do that from time to time. You see, if I'm a home builder, I'm building homes, and I decide that every single person I hire, he needs to have red hair. Only gingers at Jesse Kelly's construction company. That's what I decide to hire. And so no matter what, doesn't matter the qualification, years of experience, do you know how to drywall, how are you at pounding nails, none of that matters. I need people with red hair in here, over and over and over again. That's my hiring process. What would my company end up like? What would the quality be of my company? Be garbage, be horrible. Over time, the houses would get worse and worse and worse. Why? Because I'm assigning value to the color of someone's hair, which in and of itself has no value, brings no value to my company. But since I have decided it does have value, I am now filling up Jesse Kelly's ginger construction service with a bunch of redheads who not only sunburn, they don't know how to pound nails. Eventually, homes start crumbling, maybe on people. I was being diverse. I was being very inclusive. But what I was actually doing was killing. And what you have right now at a national level with these anti-humans, what you have is this hyper-focus on diversity everywhere, absolutely everywhere. I want you to watch this clip with Corinne Diversity Hire. And before you make fun of her, which we're obviously going to do, before you make fun of her, I want you to think about something. When you watch Corinne Diversity Hire speak, you laugh and you mock her and you say she's not qualified. And of course, all those things are correct. Keep doing all that. She's not qualified. She was hired because she's a black lesbian, which is a crazy reason to hire a press secretary. So you're looking at somebody not qualified for their job. You know that's going to be surgeons in the very short-term future, right? You know that. It's going to be police officers, pilots of that next commercial airliner. Did you know that these commercial airliners are already putting out articles? Hey, man, we got too many whites. It's getting too white around here. Hey, no more whitey. We only are going to hire black people from now on. That's quite a qualification for flying around 300 people in a metal tube at 30,000 feet, isn't it? The color of someone's skin, the death of everything. Think about that next pilot you have as you watch this Corinne Diversity Hire clip.
Why is the American military shooting something out of the sky over Canada?
Because it's part of NORAD. The NORAD is part of it's a what you call a coalition, a consortium,
a pact of nations.
A pact,
okay.
Exactly. And so that's why we were able to do that. Again, we didn't do it on our own. We did it clearly in step with Canada.
Canada? She can't speak. She doesn't know anything about the issues. She's an idiot. And yet she's the press secretary. Why? Because the people who do all the hiring now in this nation, not just in the Joe Biden White House, at universities, hospitals, police departments, law firms, that next judge that's presiding over your case, they're focused on everything except for what really matters, the death of everything. Which in the end, back to what we were talking about, is what the anti-human really wants. I can bring this information that I just told you to any one of these communists, and I can tell them, hey, you hear the story about Jesse Kelly's ginger construction company and how everything got worse? And they would look at me and they would say, no, I know. I get it. Because the destruction is intentional, and that's the idea. I love my country. I know that's cheesy probably to say, because you do too. That's why you're sitting here watching I'm Right on the First. You could be watching anything. You're watching this, patriot, you love your country, but it's just, I'm going somewhere with this, hang with me. I really, really love it. And part of loving America for me has been looking down on America's enemies, especially the evil ones we hate. And remember Chernobyl? Do you remember Chernobyl, or do you know the story? You at least know the name. I would highly recommend you read a book on Chernobyl. If you don't like to read, I can see you rolling your eyes right now. If you don't like to read, if you're not a reader, HBO, actually, of all places, did an outstanding little mini-series on it that's very well done, very accurate and very well done on Chernobyl. And all my time of reading about Chernobyl, I actually watched that series about Chernobyl, it always hit me. That what a horrible government that would be to live under. And here's why. You have this nuclear plant, and something goes terribly wrong, and whether you read about it or watch the documentary or whatever, immediately, in the wake of something terrible happening, and they knew something poisonous and awful was spreading out to the civilian population, in the immediate wake of that, these grown men, these people who should be leading a society, they did not do an all hands on deck, gather together in the conference room. Hey, fellas, come on, gather around here. We got to figure out how do we protect the people? The people are in danger. We got to protect the people. That's not what they did. The government, their system was so rotted and so corrupt that they met. Oh, don't get me wrong, they met. All hands on deck. Everyone gathered around, and they all met to try to cover their rear ends. What do we have to tell the public? What can we keep quiet? Oh, hey, let's not overblow this. No, just see if we can cover it up. Oh, let's clear the stuff. Call the firefighters in. The system itself in the Soviet Union was so rotted and so corrupt that no matter what happened, the elite, the powerful, were only concerned with themselves. And so the people suffered over and over and over again. The Chernobyl story is a fascinating story. And I brought up my patriotism because of this. I used to look at stories like that, especially out of the Soviet Union, right? The big red menace. I used to look at stories like that, and I would look down my nose at them. Look at that corrupt government. Look how embarrassing their government is. It would suck to live under a system like that, where something toxic to the citizens could be released and the elite would even consider only themselves instead of the good of the people. Call me naive. Shoot, maybe we were better back then when I thought like that. But I looked down on other countries and their corrupt systems like that a lot. And this really started during COVID, and now it's accelerated into hyperdrive under the Biden administration. This horrible feeling I'm getting inside of me right now. And that feeling is this. I'm 41 years old, that after a lifetime of looking down my nose at other governments and other systems, that's who we are now. That's us. Look, let's just briefly talk about this train thing in Ohio. I'm not going to get into all the ins and outs and chemical compositions and things like that I don't know much about. I know this vinyl chloride stuff turns into hydrochloric acid once it's burned, and they burned it. Look, I'm not going to get into all the details of it right now. But I know this. I know that powerful people are lying to us. And you know how I know that? I know that because people are getting sick. People are developing skin rashes. Animals are dying. Animal behavior is changing. Therefore, I don't care what the latest scientist, doctor, politician has to say. I don't care that Ohio governor, corrupt piece of trash that he is, Mike DeWine, I don't care that he's up there basically saying, oh, it's fine.
The federal government is conducting an investigation to determine why this wreck occurred, this crash occurred. We await that. And certainly we'll be interested in seeing what was going on. Look, the president called me and said, anything you need. I have not called him back after that conversation. I will not hesitate to do that if we're seeing a problem or anything, but I'm not seeing it.
No problem. I actually saw him last night get on the clip and say, oh man, Go back home. Get some bottled water, is what he said. Get some bottled water and go back home. Well, you see, I realize I'm not a doctor or a scientist. I didn't go to MIT. I flunked out of college. But I do know this. If there's something in the air, in the water, in the food that is causing my skin to break out and my chickens to die, something is unsafe. And I don't care how many of these people they trot out in front of the camera to tell these poor people in East Palestine that it's safe. There's no way it's safe. If something is killing your dog, it's not safe for you, human being. And it occurs to me as I watch this happen in real time that this is what it's like. This is what it's like to live in a completely broken, corrupt system where the elites are only there to protect themselves and enrich themselves and loot the treasury for every dime they can as our republic slowly crumbles. I mean, we have a transportation secretary, which we shouldn't, but we have a transportation secretary in this country. In the wake of this disaster for the poor people of Ohio and West Virginia, and God forbid further, he's up there on stage talking about diversity?
On building a workforce that reflects the community. We have heard way too many stories from generations past of infrastructure where you got a neighborhood, often a neighborhood of color, that finally sees the project come to them, but everyone in the hard hats on that project looking like, doing the good paying jobs, don't look like they came from anywhere near the neighborhood.
Right.
You can build community wealth that will help close wealth gaps in this country if we can tear down those barriers.
And this is why I'm now having to deal with this. I've been dealing with this on it, just you and me talking for a few years now. I'm having to deal with the realization that I now live in that country I used to look down my nose at. Look, do we need to go back to the Chinese spy balloon? The United States of America, #1, leader of the free world, all those things that you and I love to talk about. We love to get teared up about as we put our hand on our heart and say the national anthem. The United States of America just allowed a Chinese spy balloon to traverse from the Pacific to the Atlantic before we shot it down. And not only that, the Biden administration was never going to tell you about it at all until someone looked up in the sky in Montana and said, wait, that doesn't look like Venus. And they started reporting on it. They were just going to let it go. They were just going to let it all go. And now, what are they doing? Now they're shooting something new out of the sky every 15 minutes, and they're telling you things like, well, we missed with that one Sidewinder. We don't know where that went. And, the debris from what we just shot down over Lake Huron? Oh, yeah, no, we couldn't find it. It'll probably never be recovered at all. And they're lying. What's the truth? I don't know. I don't have any idea. You don't have any idea. That's what's so frustrating. When you live under a system like this, the truth in many, many, many cases becomes simply impossible to find. Now, you know what the lie is. The lie is easy to spot when you live under a corrupt regime like this. The lie is whatever they're telling you. Whenever a Corinne Diversity hire gets up there and tries to muddle through a press conference, just know that any words she does manage to get out are lies.
If it turns out, as it looks like, that the president and Mr. Trudeau sent Top Gun fighters to blow weather balloons out of the sky, does the president regret that, and is he embarrassed by that?
I'm not going to get ahead of of any final decision. We just don't know yet.
I don't believe anyone. I'm talking about identity politics as it pertains to you. Do you like it? Because I will tell you, because I'm a cold-hearted jerk, I don't really have feelings per se, I despise it. Everywhere I see it. The left, of course, lives on it, and we'll discuss why here in a moment. The right thinks they're going to get in on the action, so that's why you see so much of that. As a woman, as a veteran, as a black guy, as an Asian, as a gay, that's why you see so much of it on the right as the right tries it too. But let's acknowledge something before we go into why the communists do it. Let's acknowledge they do it because it is effective on people. There is an old saying, I don't know if it's actually an old saying, I just made that up. I may have come up with this myself, but there's no ability like relatability, and that is the truth. We as human beings, I would consider this a flaw, but maybe it's just part of who we are. We as human beings, we want to be led by, hang out with, watch on TV people who identify with us in some way. Somebody we can relate to. He or she talks like me, looks like me, acts like me, dresses like me, drinks the same beer I do, eats Red Lobster like me. I think we human beings have a flaw in that. Now, let's go to how the communists use it, because this is actually the most important thing. And this is why, when you understand what they're doing, this is why we have to reject all identity politics all the time on the right. We can never, ever, ever fall into this trap of trying to use it, because the communists use identity politics for different reasons. I've used this example before, but this is why they do what they do. Because everyone knows the different communist groups in America. If you don't, maybe you're a new viewer. There's only communism right here in America. American communism, cultural Marxism. Yes, it's here. Yes, that's what it is. That's why practically all of them call themselves that now. But people think, they get under the mistaken impression there are different parts of it. No, there's the BLM part, and then Antifa is separate, and then the LGBTQ insanity, that's different, and the feminine, no. They're all the same. That's why they all work together all the time. They all have the same goal, the destruction of the United States of America, frankly, the destruction of everything, but that's their goal. But that doesn't make sense, does it? Why, you see we have these child drag shows now, these despicable child drag shows, and something you may have noticed recently is they get armed security now for these. Only the armed security, it's not a security guard, it's Antifa. Antifa guys with guns show up. Now, why would the anti-fascists show up and guard a child drag show? Even if they're not enemies, they're not connected. Well, here's why. Remember, communism itself, it's never been about the workers, the working class. It's never been about taking the bourgeois down a notch. Those were always lies from the very, very beginning. Communism is not complicated. Any society, it doesn't matter, large, small, the best, the worst, any society will have inevitably malcontents. People who feel, rightly or wrongly, that they have been wronged by that society and they're bitter about it. You know, everyone gets wronged at some point in time, but what you want, if you're a communist, you have to find the malcontents, because those are the bitter ones. So if you're an American communist, here's what you're doing at all times, and I want you to understand this, because the right misses this, and this is what they do when they try to play this game. If you're an American communist, what you're after is more recruits. You always need more recruits. They need more people in the tent. We need more people for the cause, more people to protest here, more people to run for office here, more people to knock on doors here. Constantly recruiting, constantly building your numbers. But how do you do that? Well, here's how you do that. I want you to picture an auditorium, 1,000 people seated in the auditorium. All right, there's 1,000 people in there. And I, Communist Jesse, I stand up in front of this auditorium. And it's my job as Communist Jesse to recruit as many people out of that audience to my cause as humanly possible, because I hate America and I want to burn it down. So I need to find me the malcontents in the audience. So I will stand up in front of that audience and I'll say, hey, who thinks America's racist? This country's been racist against black people. And if you think that's true, join me and we'll fight back. Well, out of 1,000 people, how many am I going to get with that message? 5, 10. I mean, even if it's 20 or 30, that's something. I have new recruits, but it's not enough. It's not near enough. So I need more malcontents. That's not enough. So I'll gather my 20, 30. Nice work, guys. Yeah, we'll get America. Hang on a second. I got to go back and get us some reinforcements. I'll stand up on stage and I'll say, who are the bitter, short-haired feminists in here? I saw a bunch of Subarus in the parking lot. Who are you? I know America's been mean to women. It's always been a country that's mean to women. Join me and we'll fight back. And then they set their cats down and they stand up in their flats and they say, yeah, Jesse, America's evil. We're joining. And so I gather them in, another 20, 30, 40 feminists. Hey, feminists, nice, welcome in. Hey, sit over here with the angry black guys and we'll burn down America in a minute, but this still isn't enough. And then I go do the same with who thinks America's warming the climate? Who thinks America is anti-gay? You know what I mean? It's just a big recruiting pitch to bring more people into the tent. And of course, this is where the right normally does this. The right loves to do this. The right will step in and they'll say things like, well, I don't know why they fall for this. Joe Biden's the real racist. He called someone boy.
And you got a hell of a new governor in Westmore, I tell you. He's the real deal, and the boy looked like he can still play. He got some guns on him.
So does that make Joe Biden a racist? Is that what we should go with today? Or all the history of the vaguely or sometimes extremely racist things Joe Biden has said?
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black. And let's lay one thing to rest. I may be a practicing Catholic. I used to go to 7:30 Mass every morning in high school and then in college before I went to the black church. Not a joke. Andy knows this. There's a place where I was the only white guy that worked as a lifeguard down in that area, the east side. And you know where you can always tell where the best basketball in the state is and the best basketball in the city is. It's where everybody shows up. The three congressmen you have here, two of them look like they really could and did play ball, and the other one looks like he could bomb you.
Okay, so here's what the right does. The right loves to do this. They'll pull those old videos of Joe Biden and they'll say, see, Democrats are the real racist guys. Totally missing what's going on. Is Joe Biden racist? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe he's got one of those older guys with the racist views. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But you're totally missing the point if that's what you did there. It's not that they are or aren't racist. It's that they use identity politics as a recruitment arm to bring more malcontents into the fold. And this is why any attempt by the right to try to play that game will inevitably fail. Why? Because if you start playing that game, you're trying to appeal to the same malcontents the communists are appealing to, and you will always lose to them in the end. This is why I roll my eyes the second I hear anyone on the right say, as a woman, as a veteran, as a black guy, as a this, as a that, your little qualifiers mean you've already lost. The second you start dividing people up like that, you're officially playing the communist game on the communist field with the communist referees enforcing the communist rules, and I'm sorry, you're not going to win. That's the communist game. Looks like we have our second official contender for the 2024 Republican nomination to be President of the United States of America, Nikki Haley. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley has announced today. Now, you're probably laughing, you're probably rolling your eyes. Here's a little bit of her announcement.
It's time for a new generation of leadership to rediscover fiscal responsibility, secure our border, and strengthen our country, our pride, and our purpose. Some people look at America and see vulnerability. The socialist left sees an opportunity to rewrite history. China and Russia are on the march. They all think we can be bullied, kicked around. You should know this about me. I don't put up with bullies. And when you kick back, it hurts them more if you're wearing heels. I'm Nikki Haley, and I'm running for president.
Except she does put up with bullies. She does. My lasting memory of Nikki Haley, when I checked out on Nikki Haley, was not recently, not at all. I checked out on Nikki Haley a long time ago. You remember there was this hate crime, this white racist dude walked into some black church or black Bible study, actually it was in South Carolina. You probably remember this. Dylan Roof, I believe his name was. He shoots up the whole place, kills a bunch of sweet old black ladies that were there to pray with him. Well, the communists go combing through his Facebook posts and on social media accounts trying to make him out to be some right-winger, right? And they end up finding, I believe it was a Confederate flag, a picture of him with a Confederate flag on there. And they begin hounding Nikki Haley about the South Carolina state flag, which had that representation on it. It wasn't long before Nikki Haley pulled that flag down. She does give up. She gives in to bullies. That's what she does. So I'm out on Nikki Haley. Somebody like that, somebody who gives in to the communist rage mob, not going to ever be my president, not going to ever be somebody I support. But let's talk about this for a moment. Why run? Because all I've seen all day long is people who are saying, honestly, what's the point? What's the point? Why is she running? She has no chance. She's going to get 2%. I don't understand. I don't understand. Why would you run? Why would you run? Pause on that for a moment. I'll tell you a little story. I knew a guy, actually I haven't talked to him in years, but I knew a guy some years ago, and he was one of these entrepreneurial types. Just stay with me. And one of the things you learn, if you ever talk to rich people, you ever talk to really rich people, is they really do occupy like a separate world than people who aren't rich. And I remember my conversations with this guy, I would oftentimes, because I was making, I think like $60,000 a year or something like that at the time, I was working construction. I remember thinking, he just occupies the reality that I can't relate to. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So I'm talking to this guy, and he's one of these hotshot, genius entrepreneurial types, and he'd started a company that took off, and now he was making millions of dollars. And he was going, this is all gonna tie in, just stay with me. And he was going to Las Vegas. He was going to Las Vegas that weekend for a little private conference. Now, I don't want you to think about this as a conference like you go to or I go to, where we go and we sit in the lobby of the Courtyard Marriott Hotel while some boring seminar goes on and you're getting credit for it at work. Hopefully they have free beer that night. It's not like that at all. This was an exclusive conference. You had to pay. You had to pay to get into this conference, and not $100. Not $500, not that entry fee your company paid for you. The price for admission into this conference was $5 million. There were only going to be, I forget what the number is, it was under 20. There weren't many guys there. It was picture a big conference room. I'm not talking a tiny, a theater, a big conference room. Millions of dollars to get in. Now, okay, what happens there? What are they giving out warm cookies? Gold bars? What happens there? Oh, there's nothing official. What? What happens there is you pay that money, you walk into the room with other rich guys who paid the money, and from that point on, it became known that you had attended that conference. Not only do you do the networking with other rich guys, but you attended that conference, and having gotten credit for attending this little conference with all these hotshot business guys and entrepreneurs, that would make your phone ring endlessly. Phone calls, emails, text messages with new business and investment opportunities that would easily, I asked them, because I'm dumbfounded by all this, right? Same way you probably are right now. And I said, so that paid off? $5 million? And I remember the look he gave me. It was almost like it was the dumbest question. And when he looks at me like, Jesse, it paid off several times over. Just being part of the club, having the word out there that you're part of the club, made you a lot of money. Now let's go to Nikki Haley. You're asking today why is she running. It doesn't make sense. She shouldn't be running. What's she doing? Nikki Haley's running for that same reason. She has no chance. She does have a brand. It's a small brand. It's not Trump's brand. It's not Heavy D's brand. It's a small brand, but it's a brand. She has a brand. You know who she is. We're talking about her right here on I'm Right. She has a brand. That brand is this size. If you can run for president and get enough votes and support and raise enough money to get on the GOP stage for the debates, it doesn't matter how bad you do, what you do. I mean, it's better if you do well. But if you can just get on that stage on national television, ABC, NBC, CBS, I'm sure we'll be playing it for you here on the 1st, and you're up there having a presidential debate, your brand goes from this to this, and you become known as somebody of some significance. What does that do for you tangibly? Maybe you want to write a book. Maybe you want to write a book. I wrote a book. JesseKellyBook.com, by the way, Anti-Communist Manifesto. Make sure you go pre-order it. But I wrote a book. Well, I don't know what people who write books make, because I've never sold one yet. My book just came out. But I guarantee there's a difference between selling 500 books and 5,000 books. She stands on that stage. She goes from 500 to 5,000. Who is that lady? I want to buy her book. You know what else pays? Cable news gigs. Maybe Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, maybe the First. Maybe someone calls Nikki Haley, maybe she acquits herself very well. Hey, how about a late night show? You know what else pays? Presidential cabinet positions. Maybe she runs in that primary, of course, gets her teeth kicked in, which she will, but maybe the person she bows out and endorses, maybe they make a secret, illegal, but they all do it, a secret backroom deal. Hey, Nikki, back out and be Secretary of State if you want. Back out and endorse me. However you want to look at it. People run for president because it costs you very little but time, and in the end, your brand goes from this to this. In the end, you're part of the club. And whatever it costs you, even if it costs you some money or costs you a little bit here or a little bit there, it will pay off several times over down the road. Nikki Haley's not running for president because she thinks she's going to be president or because she thinks she has a chance at the Republican nomination. These people live and die by polls and things like that. Nikki Haley's running for president, and all the others who get in will run for president for the exact reason I just said. It's all about taking your brand from here to here because your brand is money.